Hi everybody, it's Bruce from Nature Calls, and I am going to do a setup review of the Hilleberg Nallo 3GT. I had a chance to use this tent on a big snow hike last weekend, and it was so stormy I couldn't film the setup. But I guess that's the point, is that I really got to take this out in some pretty gnarly winds. Now, once I got all the camping gear cleaned up, got a chance to take this out, do a filming, but I'm under the bridge where I live, and it's raining and still storming or getting tons of snow. But I learned a ton about this Kerlon fabric and the design of the tents, and we had about 1.5 feet of snow. We had winds gusting to 40-50 miles per hour. It was fantastic. We were up about, I think, 3,600 feet. But I know that the temperature, we had like some really soft, wet, dry, big differences. And so the bow was above us, 50 feet above us, but every once in a while would unload a huge amount of snow that would just land right on top of this tent. And I have some other really nice tents. I actually have a lot of nice tents, but they aren't this level. Especially my 3-season tents. But this Kerlon fabric is super strong. Plus, it's like Teflon. The snow would just slide right off it. A lot of my other tents that aren't this triple silicone, they would eventually just start loading up and would collapse. So that was a real key feature I loved about this tent, was the fact that the snow would just shed off. It built up on the side, and I'll put a link to the video of that I did get, and you'll see all the snow. But it was a great experience to do a setup with this tent. We got a little bit of wind today, but let's go over the setup, because that was something that was, of course, critical when we got there. The wind was just howling, had a lot of people. I needed to get this tent up fast, and we eventually got 5 people in it to hide out for a little bit and get warmed up. So let's do a little setup. Well, it comes with these real nice, they're DAC poles, DAC pole pegs. They worked for me. I figured out how to work these in the snow. I would put them about halfway in, turn them sideways, and stomp on them, and the snow was wet enough that it just really, it solidified, and it worked all night. But I need to carry at least 4 snow anchors if I'm going in the snow. That was one of my big conclusions. And with a tunnel tent, in most tunnel tents, but definitely Hilleberg's, you only have to peg out 4 spots for it to be able to be stood up. And you start off with just the 2. And on the ends, getting a little dirty, on the ends you have these adjusters. And so you peg down one end, whatever one you want, basically, into the wind. Hammer that good. I'm not going to put it all the way down, but you want a 45-degree angle, almost all the way down, so it catches on those, but you want as much as you can in the dirt. Then this we'll tighten up later, and that is one of the critical design components of this tent. So let me go ahead and just these 2 in the front, and then we put in the poles. This tent has 3 poles, because it has this vestibule. That's what GT means. And the first thing, they're full sleeved all the way through, and you can also, they're big enough to put 2 of these in there. So if you're really going into some really, really nasty stuff, you could bring another set of poles. You just kind of slide it in, and you start sliding it in, and then you pull fabric. And then there's another heavier duty pocket on this end. You want to make sure that is well seated in there. You start bringing it across, and you put it into this little cup down here. Bottom, so here you can see where you can put another set of poles. Then you just tighten it up to the bottom of the tent, and I'll continue on with the rest of them. Now on the middle pole, the middle hoop section has it's a little bit longer pole, so they put a red striping right there, and then you have red tape on the pole itself. All right, so once you get it to this point where you've got all your hoops in it, find your other end. It's a little bit wider, kind of give it a little bit of a pickup, and you bring it down and stake it out. And so now once you've got it all staked out on the front and the back, this is where a real critical point of it. You can see it's standing up just fine, but now we're going to tighten the whole thing up, make it quite a bit more taut. And what that's also doing, just not making the outside look better and stronger, but it's actually the inner tent is going to be brought out taut too. So now we just tighten up on these buckles back here. Hopefully you'll see it start tightening up. If I was going to be out all night, they do have tie outs or stake out points all along, but I'm just going to be putting it up, bring it back down. What it does have is, no trigger, come on. It does have is this really nice, it's called Vectran cordage, and it's almost zero stretch. There's no outer covering on it, so it doesn't slide. Super strong. These are 2mm. Come on, trigger, move it. But these were a definite, and actually I turned these sideways and planted them into the snow and then stomped on them. So now I've got it all in its preliminary state of staking it all out. Now, one of the super things that helped us the other night was adding this rigidity to the guy wires. And one thing is you don't over tighten them. You just get them to that one little, right when they feel just tight. I guess some people over tighten these things for some reason and flatten it, and then you lose your strength. I'm going to go around and tighten it all up. Hopefully you're seeing it. Make it real solid. So now you can see it's real nice and taut. And this was it just seemed like Teflon, this stuff. When the snow would hit it, it would just fall off, or if it was wet, it would just bead and go off. I have other sill polys, sill nylons, and urethane coated, and this is just way better, way better. And of course, with all tents, ventilation and trying to keep the condensation that builds up mainly out of your breath, but say you have wet clothing that you're bringing in there. The biggest thing is a tent needs to be very well ventilated. That's any tent, and a lot of people, they don't understand why their tent fogs up, but it usually comes down to setup. And if you make sure that everything's taut, everything's you use your pegs to peg it out. Now the Hilleberg tents, they're designed to have their own inner. So if condensation goes up and hits the outer part of the tent, that'll just bead off and go back into the ground. Like my other tents, it's like all mesh, and then it has the outer thing. It's just real important to keep that outer, your rainfly or whatever, as taut as you can get it. And since Hilleberg tents mainly is a rainfly, so they put in even just their design, but right here, this is, say, either the front or the back, you have this big wind scoop. So this will bring the air through, and let me show you how they handle it in the back. So now this is the back or the front, or it's one of the ends. This is where your feet would be. And that brings up this one guy wire right here. You really have to have that one working. You can set up this whole tent without all the guy lines out. But this one here pulls this back one out and thus pulls the inner out. So we had that big air scoop on the front, and if it's super hot, they have this little idea back here where you can unzip these two folds and then you just clip them up. And now you've got, especially for summer, you've got summer camping, you've got some really great ventilation that's going through. It's like a tornado. So there you go. So there you get your full flow. Of course, in the snow, in the rain that I was in, we had snow up to here built on it, so this wasn't going to help us out at all. But I think that's the Nallo does this, and I think it's a nice feature. This can be staked out too, like that. You know, if I would have been thinking, that's probably what I would have done in the snow. That would have really helped out. But you know, there again, don't know how I would have done that, but I'll know to learn. So the Nallo 3GT, which has this front vestibule, has two doors. One's on this side. So that can provide you one way in. And you know, when we had people unloading the tent and we were getting out of there, it was nice to have both these doors open so we could get people going in and out. Let's go over to the other side. So now this is the other side. It has a nice weather seal on it. Now if it were me, I would have where your feet are in the wind, by the way, so the weather can travel down across the tent. This is a bigger door than the other side. It has a little tie out. So there we go. You know, this is big. What happened on that night that we went up last weekend, we actually ended up, one of the people didn't have the right equipment, so he slept right here in the vestibule. And so, you know, we had 3 people and a dog in here. We're great. We're very happy. Now this is a feature I just really love, is that you can take the front part of the vestibule and tie it back, and you get this kind of covered porch feel like on the chitum. But this just, I think it's just perfect. You could have rainy and looking out at the lake and have this area here. What a fantastic design. All right, let's bring you inside. So here's where these tube tents, and especially the Hilleberg tents, is they have this yellow inner tent. And say here in America, that would be our mesh part, but this is a 4-season tent, so it's all a nylon, Ripstop nylon. It does have a water repellent on it. It's not triple silicone like the outer, but it does have a water repellent. But here you can see where it's being suspended off the outer tent, and so you get that ventilation going through all the way through. If any condensation does get up here, the theory is that it would slide down the side and go right back into the ground. Let's switch to GoPro and take in here. So here you see the outer is all Ripstop nylon, and then it does have an inner that's a mosquito netting. So you can take that nylon down and just have the mosquito netting when it's summertime. Nice big door that opens on up. So here you get the look at the lay of the land on the inside here. Has a really nice bathtub floor. It goes up all the way around. That's definitely a heavier fabric. There you have another vent on the other side. And then you also have, so in the summer, you have that vent open that has mosquito netting on it. You have the front door with just mosquito netting, you know, and all the ventilation, you'd be just fine. But it's real nice, bright yellow, so when the sun does hit it, it's pretty bright, or even, you know, when you've got your headlamps on, it's pretty bright. And then they also have a clothesline up here in the top. And this is a 3-person, and you know, it's down at the very end. That's where you want that pulled out. Handled 2 people in here just great, and a dog, and then we had one person in the vestibule. But you could fit 3 people in here side by side, and all the gear out in the vestibule. All right, so there you have it, the Hilleberg Nallo 3GT. Love this GT feature where they have this extended vestibule. You know, sometimes you just don't have those kind of camping areas where you have this long of a space. So they have the Nallo, just the Nallo 3 or any of the non-GT type tents. So it kind of depends on what your experience is with tent locations. But really love this. We found plenty of space. We had snow up to here. I mean, it just held up fantastic. Really loved it. 7 pounds, so it's a little bit heavier, but for a 3-person extended vestibule with that type of protection, really isn't very bad at all. So, all right, any questions, give me a call and write a message below, and be more than happy to answer. Take care, and I'll see y'all later.